Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. We are looking at a pretty full slate here on Friday night. This one taking a look at the Brooklyn Nets headed to San Antonio to take on the Spurs. Nate does have his great article up on playpicks.com with some best bets and player props in there for you. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Got a couple other videos up for you today, including that player props video, which we will have a gift card opportunity for you in that one. So make sure you are liked and subscribed to be eligible to win that. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or a DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, the Nets opened at -2 here in San Antonio, but we're moving towards a pick'em line. For some reason, people are snapping up that Spurs action. I mean, it's fair enough. Yeah, the Nets have not been world beaters since losing Kevin Durant. They barely beat the Wizards in Washington, lost in Cleveland and in Portland. So, I understand why the action's coming in, but we still like the Nets. And we'll tell you why in a second. Looking at the other games here, though, there are plenty of options to bet on. We got Thunder +9 and Hornets. Lakers are -5.5 and Magic. They should be able to get on track with that one. The Clippers are +8 at the 76ers as Joel Embiid looks to continue his tear. The Miami Heat +1 at the Hawks. Blazers are +8.5 at Celtics with a total of 212. That is our other game episode on this Friday. The Raptors are +1 at the Wiz. Bulls are +11 now without Zach LaVine or Lonzo Ball for a while. They're at Milwaukee tonight. Total of 228 there. Pistons +14 at Jazz. Memphis is +3.5 at Denver. That'll be an interesting one to watch. And then the Houston Rockets are +10.5 at Golden State. But the Nets, small spread here, despite the fact they are still the championship favorites, obviously, because we expect Durant to come back within a month or so. But for now, it is the traveling road show with Kyrie and James Harden starring. Brooklyn, I believe, has 10 of their next 12 on the road, so they will get used to those two guys carrying them. The offense has really ramped up, obviously, when you get Kyrie back in the lineup. Their rating jumps from 111 to 123. They're scoring 120.8 points per game. And their defense has suffered, not just because of Kyrie, but because Durant's out. Now Nicholas Claxton is out. Bembry is questionable tonight. Their defensive rating is 9 points higher in those 5 games with Kyrie. They've gone over in 3 of the 5. They've won 3 of the 5. They have not been cover machines at all, but when you talk about a 1-point spread, that's pretty manageable. And for me, it's more about the fact that the Spurs aren't necessarily a great team to capitalize on whatever the Nets' deficiencies are on defense. San Antonio's actually dropped 6 straight games against teams with records above 500. They're 2-10 straight up as home underdogs. They're playing a lot of shootouts at home, 15-6 to the over. That's 71% of their home games. They allow the second most paint points at home and the 6th highest effective field goal shooting at home. So you like the Nets offense to keep rolling here. Their total at 117.5 is still exploitable, but I would shy away from the overall total of 233. It's just getting a little rich for my blood at that point. I would take the simple bet of just Brooklyn pulling out a win here. I think Harden and Kyrie both can do their thing in this matchup. In his last 7 at San Antonio, James Harden averaging 30.5 points, 9 assists per game. 6 of those are with Houston, but he had a very good game in his Nets debut at San Antonio. They won there. They've won 4 straight. Haven't had KD for almost any of those games against the Spurs. So they should be able to just keep pace with a guard-heavy team here based on how their lineup is currently constructed. I'd like Harden and Kyrie to both have big games. And if you're interested in that player special at DK, both of them to score 30 is +600. Independent of the result, they've both been above 25 pretty consistently. And that happens to be their prop, 25.5 points for both of them tonight. I would definitely take a look at both of that, considering how bad San Antonio's been defensively and how much pace they play with at home.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the first thought when you see Brooklyn on the road, points, Brooklyn without KD and with Kyrie, points, and then San Antonio at home, ton of points, right? As we know what they do at home in terms of that pace, in terms of their scoring, it hasn't really let up. They've gotten better on offense on the road, have the Spurs, but they've maintained, hitting that over at home 71.5% of the time this season, 15-6-1, definitely the highest percentage in the league. Mentioned how they're not very good against good teams, including at home, 2-10 straight up against 2-10 as home underdogs, dropping their last 6 versus teams above 500. I think that we're getting a little bit of value on Brooklyn because they've struggled a bit. That Washington game was closer than it probably should have been, especially when you get 27 points from LaMarcus Aldridge like you did, as well as 17 from Patty Mills. I mean, if those two guys are going to score 44 combined points, you've got, and you're going to score 119, there's got to be some defense. But, it's what they do with Kyrie and without KD, and it's specifically on defense, right? Kyrie equals a ton of offense. I mean, their offensive rating with him in 5 games is 123, right? You mentioned dropping about 121 points a game. Defensive rating rises all the way to 118. Without him, all those numbers, obviously offensive rating drops about 12 points per 100. Defensive rating goes down, right? They're better on defense. It's all obvious, but it's also without KD, their defensive rating is 116 this season. With him, it's 109. So, this season especially, I mean, last season he was a defensive mastermind at times. This season, he's taken a few more plays off, playing like 40 minutes a game, exactly why he got hurt at this point. But also, his defense this year is still good enough for them that he's been their rim protector. I mean, obviously Blake Griffin's not protecting any rims anymore, and Marcus Aldridge still can't really jump over a piece of paper. So you've got one guy protecting the rim, and he's not there anymore. So I think you're going to see a lot of DeJounte Murray in the lane tonight. You're going to see a lot of points. I too am a little bit scared of 233. I mean, when you look at both these teams, right, on the road, Brooklyn, their games are averaging about 224. At home, the Spurs games are averaging about 227, right? But that still doesn't neither of those totals get you to what we need tonight. But you do like the fact that, I think this gets to 227, 228 in that frame. I'm scared of betting this above like 230, 231, to be honest, in terms of taking an over there. So yeah, I would focus on the Nets. I mean, look, it's only 2 points right now, but the money line is minus 115 for the Nets as well. So I'm not I'm not like very precious about taking the points to get any better odds there, because there's not much to work with. So what I do like points, just I don't know about 233 of them, which means I do like some props in here. Mentioning James Harden, for a minute, you talk about how he's been really, really good against San Antonio, in San Antonio especially, but just in his last 7 versus San Antonio overall, he's made 3 3-pointers in all those games. And his 3-point prop tonight is at 2.5. If you take over that, you're getting plus 140 on your money, which I really, really like for Harden. He's chucking threes. It's not for a lack of trying, that's for sure. His percentages and efficiency isn't quite what it's been in the past. But there is a lot more of him getting those free throws once again and getting those threes. And so, I'm going to, rather than go after any points with him, I do love his 3-pointers. We mentioned a team total for Brooklyn as well. Love taking that. So if you're looking at points, I think Brooklyn's going to score for sure. So rather than go for that game over or game total, that high 117.5 for the Nets with Kyrie. We just told you they're averaging 121 a game, and I see no reason for that to discontinue tonight. And the last thing I would mention real quick, Patty Mills, a clock. I think it's time for him tonight once again. He's playing the Spurs. He's only played a couple games since he left the team, with decent stats, nothing to look too greatly into, but it's more about what he does when KD does not play this season. When KD does play, that's 36 games that they play alongside each other. Patty Mills, 12 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, a usage rate of 16%. In the 7 games that KD has not played this season, we're talking 20 points. That's 8 more a game for Patty Mills, with 3 assists and 3 rebounds. But that usage rate up to 20%, those minutes up above 32 a game when KD does not play, as opposed to coming off the bench and playing round 28. So there's some really good odds for Patty Mills tonight as well, who should see plenty of usage.
Yeah, I mean, that's all fair, but the Nets, KD deserves a lot of credit for this, but the Nets are near the top of the league in a lot of efficiency stats on the road defensively, and that's why, I lean towards the Nets point total rather than the overall total here. There is a good chance that they can contain the Spurs. The Spurs don't get many free throw attempts. They're not particularly good beyond the 3-point arc. So if the Nets are able to deny the paint, No Claxton tonight is going to hurt, but Aldridge will be motivated. They have a lot of athleticism still with those young guys. I think that they can contain the Spurs enough to pull out this win, and that's what the numbers indicate. They're not very good against the spread, but they are 12-3 straight up when they're listed as road favorites. You mentioned the Spurs are 2-10 when they're home dogs, so that certainly indicates a win. And an interesting stat to me is that the Nets are 14-2 after a loss, and granted they beat Washington on Wednesday by 1 point, but right now they're on that kind of you're doubting us skid, and it is time. It is gut check time to a degree with so many of these games on the road. Again, I go back to last year when KD was out and they were on this West Coast road trip, and James Harden suddenly became the MVP. Right. So yeah, I would look at him and Kyrie both having good games again as they look to get into a rhythm and carry this team, and they should be able to pull out a win in this spot against a team that hasn't been able to beat playoff teams recently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, San Antonio not able to play well against teams that are that much better than them. And I think we'll see a ton of those points from Kyrie and James Harden tonight. Definitely like and subscribe to the page. We got that player props video up for you. Probably talk about some players in this one there as well. So until we see you next, happy betting.